Jason,
Danny.
how you been?
I've been great. How's your day been?
Yeah, eventful. So like right now it is 20 to 10 at night. Earlier on this afternoon, I took Frankie, my 4-year-old, to a kid's birthday party, which is always eventful. However, one thing did happen at the party because I could tell from looking at him that he didn't really quite understand how musical chairs works, because he kept on going back to the original chair that he was on. And he got away with it for once or twice, but then a kid came and sat on his chair and he wasn't very happy about it and tried to launch him off the chair. However, the child's mother was standing next to him. She's like, no. And so I go over and I'm like, no. Right, Frankie, you need to go to a different chair. No, it's not the same chair.
Musical pick your own chair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like, no, this musical, this my chair. So then he starts crying. But then they basically had like a guy that was like doing the birthday party guy, kind of like a Mr. Tumble. He had this like Mr. Tumble kind of like suit on kind of thing. People that have got kids will know who Mr. Tumble is. And so then he goes, oh, do you want your daddy to like take your place in the music? And I'm like, no.
yes, no. Daddy.
And he's like, Frankie's obviously like, yeah. So I'm like, fuck. So then I'm going around and I'm purposefully trying to lose against these children, right? I swear down, I did not want to win. I wanted to be away from that. One of the other mums is videoing me, who she knows Kirsty. And then, yeah, like the kids would not sit in the chair. So then the Mr. Tumble guy's like, just sit on the chair. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking put a kid out here. Like, so then I had to sit down. And then, so I put a child out, so that's fine. And then we go to another round of it. And I swear to God, I'm purposefully trying to lose, right? And then the birthday boy comes and he's like hovering around the chair and the music stops. And I'm kind of like, take the chair, wee man. Like, just sit down. And then the guy goes, take the seat, looking at me, pointing. And I said, mate, I'm purposefully trying to lose. And he goes, Frankie, did you hear that? Your daddy's purposefully trying to lose. I was like, fuck this. I sat in the chair and put the birthday boy out. So, yeah, not my proudest moment. I'm not gonna lie.
That video, I can't wait for that video to circulate online.
Oh,
because I just know how competitive you are, and that story is complete bullshit. You went in that trying to win.
No, not against,
you went in.
Not against a 4-year-old.
Did you eventually lose?
I was like, I need out of this. Like, and the other dads and that, John, he's just like pissing himself laughing at me, and I'm just like, what is life?
I haven't even sat. Like, are those small chairs you get when you're kids as well?
No, just a normal chair.
All right, okay. I was thinking it might be
fitting
over.
No,
a couple chairs, man.
So yeah, not my proudest moment. Just beating 4-year-olds at musical chairs. How was your day?
Well, I didn't beat up any 4-year-olds today.
Disclaimer: I didn't hurt a child.
No, I've not upset any children today. So no, perfect little Sunday for me.
Great. That sounds magical. Well, there is a reason why we're recording at 20 to 10.
20 to 10 at night. It's not because we're, we like a night out with each other.
No. Although we should try that sometime.
Yeah, we should maybe get that on.
But we do have a special guest on the podcast today by the name of Ben Journee. How are we, Ben?
Kia ora. Good, boys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's a voice many people might recognise.
That might have given it away a little bit, because this man has certainly kept Jason and I company on the way to many a wedding, and I'm sure some of our listeners as well. But yeah, it's awesome to have you on. So obviously Ben Journee runs the Make Better Wedding Films podcast. How are you getting on today then? Good? I'm sorry, I'm just...
What's going on here?
I'm tangled up.
You sit still. You're still playing musical chairs.
Technical difficulties.
I am. Right. I heard music in my ear. I'm like, right, get up.
So yes, Ben is obviously the host of Make Better Wedding Films, the voice that we all recognise. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. I can't even imagine what time it is for you right now. You've obviously got out of bed to join us this morning.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for having me, boys, on the show. Yes, it is 11:15 in the morning.
Oh, that's
on Monday
okay.
For me.
I thought we were dragging you out.
We live
at
in the future here in New Zealand.
7 in the morning.
No, mate. No. Gentleman's hour. Gentleman's hour. We've done daycare drop off. I've got my coffee. Got my third coffee.
Oh
of the
yeah,
day,
so you're fully settled in.
We're ready to rock and roll.
In the
We're strapped in. We're ready to go.
in the TWVP brand colours as well, with a
Exactly.
orange
I had
mug.
to
You are
represent.
proper representing.
Well,
So did I hear you were dropping? So have you got kids as well then?
Yeah, I got a nearly 5-year-old boy. So no, I didn't beat any of his friends up at kindy on the way.
Does your 5-year-old know how to play musical chairs, or is this the
Well, we did. Just thing is, tis the season for kids' birthdays. We had a kid's birthday on the weekend too. There was questionable health and safety protocols with the piñata going on, but apart from that, it was all right.
Piñata is just a recipe for disaster.
Kids' birthday parties are just mental, though,
honestly,
aren't they? Because they just get. So they go in and they're all excited and they go in the bouncy castle or whatever, and that's fine. And then they play some of the games and that's good. And then they get the cake, and then it's just an absolute shit show, like a proper shit show. They're like running into each other, they're scrapping with each other. It's wild. Sugar,
kids, blindfolds, bats. I mean, what could go wrong?
Everything.
What could go wrong? It's great.
But yeah, it's super excited to chat to you today, mate. And like Jason said, thanks so much for coming on and sharing some of your wisdom that you've acquired over the years. But first of all, would you be able to maybe give our listeners just a little bit of background about your business, separate obviously from the pod, and maybe like a wee kind of run through of what you done before you got into wedding filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so I'm Ben Journee, and my wedding film company is just my name, Ben Journee Wedding Films. I'm based in beautiful Aotearoa, New Zealand, down here at the bottom end of the world. I've been filming weddings for about 12 years now, I think. 12 or so years. Love it. Filming weddings is great. Talking about filming weddings with other wedding filmmakers is great.
Obviously, a lot of people come into wedding filmmaking from different avenues. I mean, I've kind of done it for. Well, I mean, it feels like forever. It's been 16 years for me. But Danny obviously had a bit of a corporate background. Was filmmaking something that you studied, or is it something like a friend got you into? Like, what was your introduction into wedding films?
Yeah, introduction into films. So all through school, high school, tertiary education, I had in my mind I was going to be an animator. I was going to work for Disney, be an animator. Was grew up drawing, filling sketch pads. Left high school, went straight to animation school. Realized I hated it, and then I thought I'll pivot and we'll do graphic design. So jumped into a 3-year graphic design degree. Got to the end of that, hated it. Thought we'd at the end of my graphic design degree, I was like, oh, maybe we'll pivot into illustration. Kind of okay, kind of enjoying it, but also I kind of suck at drawing. Took me that long to figure out.
Starting to see a pattern.
And then
here.
also realized, and then also realized that I'm not going to make any money being an illustrator. So for my 21st birthday, I got this little DSLR camera. And that was the very early days of DSLR video. This thing could do a blistering 720p video. Capped out. The Nikon D5000 was a beast. And just started playing around with video and that. And because sort of through all my kind of teen and early 20s years, I was big into dancing. I was a hip hop dancer and sort of dance crew and stuff, and started using the video function on my new camera to start making these little dance videos with my friends, and just got really into the whole filmmaking side. Just dove headfirst into the early YouTube DSLR filmmaking tutorials of Philip Bloom and all that whole world, teaching myself videography on YouTube. And then weddings were literally just a way to make some coin from my camera, basically. I was like, I'll just
to pay for it.
It's just started seeing a few people online from America doing these cinematic wedding videos, and thought, oh, I could do that. There was just like
Yeah,
literally a
that looks
handful
easy.
of people, maybe 3 or 4 people in New Zealand doing it at the time. So very untapped market. And yeah, just kind of dove in head first from there.
Do you remember that feeling of getting that first booking? Like, what was it that you did to get that first booking? Was it advertising, or did you think, did you have a friend of a friend, or?
Oh, no, I reached out to my ex-girlfriend who was getting married. I was like, hey, do you want a free wedding video?
Did you actually?
I mean, you know.
Yeah, so my first wedding, I filmed my ex-girlfriend's wedding.
That is,
There you go.
That is brilliant.
I mean, you got to take the work when it's there. Right?
That is some cojones right there. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That must be one of the best origin
I'm
stories.
just about to say, like, I would have just put like the Kelvin like right up and made them look super orange.
I've got a story because you mentioned later in the episode we were talking about balls ups, and we come straight out of the gate with a massive balls up at my first wedding.
Love
so
that.
we can
Ben,
get
you
into
did
that
this
later.
deliberately. I can tell.
This was it sounds like this was premeditated. We'll just Oompa Loompa the shit out of
Oh my god. Well, great. Well, I hope she was happy with it, but we'll get to that for sure later.
So you obviously you have the podcast as well that you have been running. I think with Tadal. Is it like it's close to about 90 episodes now, isn't it? Or,
I think so. Yeah, I think we're because I'm not super frequent on it. I don't sort of blast through them, but yeah, I think we're coming up on the big 100.
Yeah,
Coming up to it soon, I think.
How many years has that actually been running for?
So, yeah. I started in 2019.
2019, yeah. So right before
started in
COVID. So
Yeah, right before COVID.
Yeah, COVID would have been a time to get a lot of people on. Sort of definitely a time that people were looking for resources and some people actually joining. So I think that's when a lot of people over here actually probably discovered it because they were looking for that content and a lot of people coming in. So, what was the when you started, that was in 2019, you'd obviously been doing the podcast. You've been doing it for 12 years now. You must have been a videographer for about 6 or 7 years by the time you started a podcast. So what was the reason for creating Make Better Wedding Films?
Well, I've always liked education, and I wanted an outlet where I could basically funnel some of my passion for education. I could use as a chance to meet people because, like, for me as classic ADHD introvert, I need a structure and a framework to go out and like talk to other human beings. So the framework of the podcast was literally an excuse for me to just like organize these chats with people and just like talk shop. Have a cool conversation with someone for an hour or so, because I need that kind of structure in order to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in a state of our life where I feel like I need to Calendly my mates. Like, if you want to hang out, you need to Calendly me these days. I run my whole life through my calendar now. So yeah, it's not happening.
I mean, not with me. I just phone you up. Like,
just interrupted the
I would just be like, he's got a call. Just I'll call him.
I'm not giving you access to my calendar. When you start a podcast, you don't quite get what value you're going to get from having people who do what you do. The opportunity it gives you to talk to so many people, and of course, in your position, you've had people from all over the world. It's not obviously. It was never like focused on New Zealand and Australia. It was always around the world from what we've heard. So, well, who was your first ever guest that you brought on?
Yeah, so the podcast started in person. Started pre-pandemic, and I just invited people over to my house and recorded it all in person. And just started organizing interviews like with my friends and peers in Auckland. And I think I recorded, I don't know, maybe 10 episodes like in person locally like that, with local New Zealand videographers. And then I think I can't actually remember what came first, doing interviews with international people online or COVID. But basically COVID certainly, put a match to the flame of
I was going to say
reaching out
that.
and transitioning the podcast to be basically exclusively online interviews, and then from there you can interview anyone around the world. And so I deliberately started reaching out to all corners of the globe, because obviously around the same time, I think John and Nick started their podcast maybe half a year before mine,
2018,
and they were obviously focused pretty heavily on the American market. So I was like, well, obviously I'm keen to interview Americans because there's loads of people over there who inspire me, but I can also reach out to people in the UK and India and Australia and anywhere basically. So just made a conscious effort to just figure out who around the world is doing awesome things, and let's chat.
I take it though, like with COVID, because that would have, I guess, lit the flame underneath it somewhat, just because it would have been something to do during the downtime. Because I think New Zealand was you guys were quite heavily locked down throughout it, were you not?
Yeah, we had some sort of short, sharp lockdowns. Basically, it was like you can do like nothing for a period of time, but then from there we then opened up. And so I think we had 2 sort of several months long lockdowns, and then outside of that things felt relatively normal.
Yeah. So did you find that like
feeling like a long time ago now?
I know it does. It does.
5 years ago in a few months,
wild.
if you could believe it.
It's mental.
Yeah.
But did you find then that like the podcast, I guess, gave you like a bit of that would have kept you company during, like, because obviously it was quite lonely for everybody. I would imagine, certainly for us, if we had some form of podcast to like almost like a warrant to go out and like chat to people, that would have like helped with the loneliness somewhat.
Yeah, it's not even so much the loneliness, more around the kind of just like camaraderie of sort of manning a ship through that storm, basically. Like, running your own business, like, while this is all happening, like through all the uncertainty of like, are we gonna be able to like do weddings, book weddings, like, how much is this going to impact us? And so being able to chat with people and hear their experiences and what they're doing to kind of pivot or adapt or kind of weather that storm was really cool. Probably more so for me than, I guess, the loneliness side of it.
And the podcast, obviously, it lends itself hand in hand to education. But was that kind of always the plan for you? I know you had an enjoyment. You took enjoyment out of education, but obviously gathering all this information from so many people from around the world, it kind of lends itself quite helpfully to education. So has that kind of always been the plan with Make Better Wedding Films? You wanted to kind of offer that service?
Yeah, I think it has been. I think because I've always had a passion for education. Like growing up, I was like always either thinking I was going to go into like kind of some form of drawing, animation, or maybe teaching. So teaching has always been like an interest of mine. And so the I guess the kind of the creativity around the education for me, like the idea to start the podcast and go down that route came at a time where I've been doing this for a while and wanted another kind of creative output to explore ideas. And again, I like needed the kind of framework of the podcast and the education platform to like give me kind of, I guess, a reason to start really diving deep and exploring and asking questions about like creativity and workflow and process and how to kind of grow as a creative. I guess the podcast and the education platform was kind of an excuse for me to really allow myself to dive deep.
Have you found that, like, I guess through the time of like doing the podcast, have you like got more fulfillment out of it as time has went on then?
For what it's given me, certainly in terms of my own work, it's given me a lot of clarity in terms of what my creative voice is, because it's something that, and I've talked about this on my show, that it's something that doesn't comes super naturally for me. Like there's people out there who I guess like have their creative vision kind of like branded on them from day one, and they're like they've got a super clear vision for like who they are as a creative and what their work kind of is. For me, that's been much more of a sort of slow organic process to kind of figure that out. And so doing the podcast and talking with like such a wide variety of people has really allowed me to sort of slowly and organically reflect on like what my creative voice is and what's true to me, basically.
Because I mean I I certainly feel the same. So we've talked about it on many a podcast, and you know, pretty much every creator, you know, from what I've seen, suffers from it, is like the whole imposter syndrome kind of thing, because I have it quite badly, as people know from listening to the pod. But I think that's one benefit as well of doing it, is speaking to all these different creatives that literally the majority of us all have like imposter syndrome quite badly. So that part of it, you know, is quite reassuring. And also then just speaking to all these different people again who, you know, we've spoken to many a time, that from the outside in the Instagram world you think, oh, these folk have it all figured out, but then, you know, they have the same pitfalls and they have the same things go wrong at weddings. You know, we were just at the the Coda conference. I don't know if you'd heard of it or seen it, kind of like on being advertised, but Rue Films had put that on, and it was really interesting, wasn't it? Like seeing, for instance, like Tyngate Films, who's really popular in the UK, and he had like a wedding that just so much shit went wrong. Like so much stuff went wrong. And it was just really, really cool just to like be able to see, and it's just nice having that space to chat to people and see, you know, see that side of things that you don't see through Instagram, you know.
I guess the more often that you speak to people who do what you do, it's a leveler, because you realize that people are going through exactly the same thing you're going through. There's not necessarily a secret sauce that's going to completely transform things, but there are processes that people do that make things easier, that maybe you haven't thought about. But ultimately, everyone goes through that imposter syndrome thing. And I don't think no matter what level you get at, it'll ever go away, because even if it's out with weddings, you can produce your best work and you'll still look elsewhere for inspiration. And that inspiration will make you feel like your work isn't as good. So, but then on the flip side of that, you found inspiration. So it's not necessarily a loss.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but it is a balancing act, though. It is a bit balancing act.
Totally.
And like, because we're like totally surrounded by everyone's curated versions of themselves online, and it is somewhat freeing when you realize everyone's got the same insecurities as you. Everyone feels as much of a fraud as you do. Everyone's winging it as much as you are. And as soon as you actually stop and talk with real people, all of it sort of tempers some of that, I guess, the anxiety and the stress around like feeling like, am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Am I living up to what I want to live up to? Because it's it is hard when you surround yourselves with that kind of comparison culture online. It can be super easy to slip into toxic thoughts.
Oh, really? and also because I think, well, I mean, you over that 12 years that you've been doing it now, you have seen a jump, I guess, quite a significant jump in terms of like the quality of output from creatives, not only just with obviously the technology that's came, even in the last 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, but just over that period, so that ultimately then everybody's work is just getting a hell of a lot better, over time. Yeah. What has it'd be super interesting to just see like what's that journey been like for you? Because obviously you were talking about shooting on your first camera. That was putting out 720, not quite HD yet, and now obviously what everybody's shooting with. Because what do you film on?
I'm on the R5C at the minute,
nice.
and then I've got a bunch of R7s as my tripod cams.
Okay, so they're definitely, you know, shooting 4K, you know, and obviously that jump in the technology and the IBIS and everything, and you know, gimbals and stuff. Like, what has, because how has that journey been?
Yeah, staying relevant.
Yeah, because I think that part also kind of like terrifies me in a way to think, because I look at some of the new folk that are coming on just now that have only maybe been doing it, you know, 6 months and going, fuck.
Yeah. As soon as you feel comfortable, you need to start switching things up.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's lots to talk about there. Because I think there's been a few, like there's always progression, but there's a few big jumps that have happened along the way. I think 4K was a big jump. And I think 10-bit color was a huge jump. I feel like as soon as we all got access to 10-bit color, everyone's kind of work just did a huge step up, and a huge step up to like a much closer step towards the kind of aesthetic and quality level that photographers were putting out. Like I think pre 10-bit color, there was this huge void between like how good like a wedding photo looked and how good like a wedding video looked. And I feel like as soon as we got the access to that better color depth, then we could actually, you know, had a bit more room to play with. That was a huge step up. So I think, since then, and then I think with COVID and the like huge influx of people coming in, and because people had time to like, you know, play around and learn things and sit online learning videography and stuff. I think like I've chatted with enough people who started wedding filmmaking like through COVID, and like kind of because like used COVID as like a line in the sand of like, okay, we're going to like try something new now. I think, it's been a huge influx of people, and that then sort of lights a fire under a lot of the, you know, old dogs. Like, oh shit, I can't rest on my laurels like I had been. I got to keep moving, got to keep learning, got to keep improving. But then there's also then this other sort of wave coming in from the side of all of this, which is this kind of new sensibility and aesthetic from Gen Z, which is to dial the quality down on everything. You know, you've got like 8mm is coming back with a vengeance. You've got phones and content creators and DV cams and all this kind of lo-fi, low-tech, low aesthetic kind of sensibility coming in from the younger generation that is completely flipping everything that, you know, millennials hold true in terms of like having everything look super beautiful and glossy and amazing. Because we've been like fighting tooth and nail to get there, because we like weren't able to make it look beautiful, and then like finally we're able to, and now suddenly it's like, oh, but you can just shoot it on a phone. And like, you know, just like a shaky DV cam's also like totally vibes, bro. Totally vibes. So again,
true,
like
though.
flipping the script and flipping the expectation on, okay, what do people actually want? What do we like? What does progression and developing as a creative actually look like? It's always changing.
It's bizarre. I think we always had this idea that we're just going to be looking forward, and the idea of forward is, better quality, better equipment and stuff. But actually, if we just take a look to the side over here, there's a new path forming that's creating a new forward, and it's nothing like we thought was necessary. But the one thing that's always stayed true is that the market decides what is relevant, and the lesser quality, to our eyes, just looks like lesser quality. But if that is what people desire, there's a way that we can use that to tell our stories, you know, because fundamentally the core thing that doesn't change here is storytelling, whether or not it's 50 individual clips that tell a story taken on a phone or a masterpiece shot in 10-bit, you know, what you deliver is still going to tell a story in some way or another. We just need to figure out how to package it in a way that our couples want.
Because it kind of, it all comes back to story, right? Because I think all of the kind of the lower fi stuff is coming like in, I guess, opposition to probably, I guess maybe like 5 years or so ago, we were going on this trajectory towards like, I don't know, creating these like super epic kind of like trailer wedding film things that were just getting just ridiculous. And they started feeling fake, feeling contrived, feeling inauthentic, and a lot of this kind of like lo-fi sensibility is to try and get towards authenticity. A lot of it can also just be trying to manufacture authenticity, and that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But that's the underlying, I guess, want and need for it. That's the underlying appeal of it, is wanting to get to, get away from this sort of hyper polished, hyper contrived, end result that I think a lot of us were probably going down 5 or so years ago.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, the home kind of movie kind of style kind of thing is definitely is you can see it becoming kind of like more and more popular. You know, I certainly got the I got the Super 8 camera to kind of like play about with and kind of like add it in kind of here and there, which I have really enjoyed using. Definitely feel like a proper filmmaker when you have it rolling. It makes some racket though. Folk are just not used to like noisy camera anymore, so you're just like mid ceremony and it's like what is that? And then they see it and then they smile and then they go back to the you know, so it's that it's the nostalgia of like going back and like watch, because my brother actually sent me a video. I need to send it to you actually. But it's a video of me on holiday, like with my dad in Italy, and it's just terrible camera skills and stuff. But it's just it's so nostalgic just to see like what life was like in like early noughties. You know, it just looks so different to what it's like now. Like you said, everything's so clean and so polished, and you know it's 4K, basically just, you know, as you see with your eye kind of thing. And it's that what you say, authenticity of just raw stuff. Because even like Tyngate as well had that bit where he gave the bridesmaids like the camcorder and just he said that what did he say? He said that bridesmaid took her job like
very seriously,
very seriously. But he got like really good stuff out of it. And you could see how that dynamic works, you know, by getting, for instance, like the bridesmaid to like take the camera, and you'll get more comfortable shots than, for instance, if we are there, you know, with a camera.
They'll just get way more access than we ever would, because the camera's in the hand of someone that they know and trust and can be vulnerable with. Like if you're someone that they've never met before, like you haven't even had a Zoom call with them, with that person, because they're in the bridal party. So you're just going to get untapped access to them. But on the flip side, they leave the camera in the hotel room in the morning and then don't pick up until the end of the night, and then you've got no footage. So that could be the flip side. So there's ways of working around it, but
that's cool. And I am here for it, and I'm trying to find more ways to kind of like just add in little bits of it. Like I still love my 4K and polished stuff. I think we all do, but it just adding in a little bit of nostalgia, kind of. Here and there, a little dusting is quite nice.
Yeah, but obviously earlier you spoke about how story is kind of at the core of everything, and I guess we build story through editing. It's something that I've been doing throughout my career in the industry, is always looking at how can I tell better stories through the film, how can I understand the music, how can I understand the power of sound effects. Editing has layers to it. And it's something that I'm always striving to learn. So what do you think are some of the pitfalls that videographers have when it comes to editing?
Some of the pitfalls I struggle with is kind of, I guess, the like staying focused, like the distraction of it, because it's such a long process. That's the thing with editing, is it's just this like huge task. Like you shoot the wedding and then you're faced with this like monumental task of like, hey, like what do I do with all this footage? And so something that I've sort of, because what I figured out early on is that I couldn't, if I was going to do this like professionally and over an extended period of time, I couldn't rely solely on my kind of creative willpower to kind of push myself through edits, because if I'm like stoked on on a wedding and stoked on the idea of editing it, I'll have all the energy in the world and I'll just go and go and go and go and go. But when I don't, I then need something else to support that and still make something amazing. So for me, creating myself really, this goes back to the same thing with the podcast, giving myself really clear structures, processes, workflows that I have to start off with, that I can then like deviate from if I want to and I'm feeling inspired to, but like having a kind of like safe home base to come back to, where I've got clear kind of bite-sized little goals and stuff that I can like jump back into anytime that like the kind of creative flow state drops away and I need to sort of like come back to some structure. I've got that now. And so that's been a huge thing for me, is like developing that really strong structural base and process to my editing. That's really like kind of, I guess, like modular, so that, yeah, when I'm in flow state and I'm just going, I'm not really too stressed on sticking to my structure. But then when the flow state goes, I can jump back to it at any point in the journey, and get locked back in. So that's been a huge thing for me to figure out.
You see, I've got this problem in my life. It's someone called Danny calling me at every second hour of the day, interrupting that so-called. The flow state is totally real. Everything you were saying there is what has been my problem this weekend. I've basically stared at the same edit, and I prefer to just walk around the flat than edit.
Yeah.
Like I'm
waiting for my next.
I'm anticipating a call or something like that. But I've just been walking around the flat. Like, okay, I'm gonna just maybe I should walk the dog for the third time today.
He's about to call any minute now.
Honestly, it's
have we heard of do not disturb mode on the phone?
Oh,
that's a big one.
That happened.
I can bypass that.
Right, so I did that, and then
you can fuck off.
No, so the do not disturb mode happened, and then I started missing meetings with clients.
Yeah,
because they could. Oh my god, he's dying. Because they could. No. I had to turn it off because I ended up missing a meeting because I didn't want to be interrupted by him. So I just let it slide.
So
now.
we also need to discuss boundaries with our friends.
Untapped access is what I signed up for.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think that is definitely something.
It's tough though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because like with the whole flow thing, what you talk about, I don't know what your partner is like, Ben, but Kirsty really doesn't quite get it. Like with the whole flow thing, she's like, oh, well, I'll be there editing, and you've been sitting at the computer for like 2 hours and feel like you've not really got anything done, and then you just hit this wave and you're like, yes, right, okay, we're in the zone, it's happening. And then she opens it, oh yeah, do you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, can't just now, but and then still trying to edit away, and then it's like, oh, but we should really go for a walk, and I'm like, fuck. And then it just so like I think spouses and partners and stuff like that, they can find it quite hard to like understand the whole thing, because they don't really get that. Well, you've been sitting at the computer for like 2 hours, you've been working. It's like, I have been, but I feel like I've just been searching music bed for like 1 hour 45 of that 2 hours, and
that happens. And then I think the other thing too, like music searching is a big one where it can feel really guilty. It can feel really defeating when you don't like finish a music bed session with the song that you wanted, and you can feel like you literally just wasted. And it's not wasted time, but it's really hard for it not to feel like wasted time.
But it's part of the process.
Sometimes because a lot of the music, like there's things you can do to assist the kind of intuitive nature of looking for music, because a lot of it's just it is intuition and based off your taste, and it's hard to really put your finger on why you like this song and not this song, but it's just just something in there. But there is little things you can obviously do to help that process. Like something I've started doing with my music hunting process is I give myself like a shopping list of what I'm looking for. So and I'm always only looking for one song at a time, not like like what sort of like general music would suit this couple or this edit. Like, no, I'm looking for like this particular song that goes with this soundbite is going to lead us off. It's got to like do XYZ. It's got to feel like this. These are some genres I'm going to lock in on. And then once you find that, then you can obviously, for your other songs, niche down to like that particular key or a supplementary key to kind of just like narrow the focus, because that's the thing I guess with something like searching for music on MusicBed. It's like walking into the grocery store without a shopping list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can just waste hours and then forget half the things you wanted when you walked in, and you should end up walking out with a box of donuts, and that's about it.
You have a course coming out that's going to be starting in January, where you kind of go in deep about editing. When I saw the course, I thought it was maybe more about kind of the storytelling, but I guess that's one part of it.
There's all sorts of elements to the editing process, and so when I was coming up with the idea of this editing workshop, I wanted obviously really practical elements, but obviously then the more holistic storytelling elements too. So as I hosted a like filming workshop, like a sort of, it was called advanced cinematography. It was focused like just on the filming part, and that was back in I think June or July, and that was awesome. And that was like in-person workshop. It was 2 days, and we were doing the usual kind of videography workshop thing where we had a style shoot, and it was great. But then when I sat down and started thinking about how I wanted to do advanced editing, I was like, well, editing takes a long time. Like, even if it was 2 or 3 days, like as soon as you've got like keynote speaking and everything in the middle, like no one's going to be actually able to edit anything along the way, and you're going to finish that workshop and then forget half the stuff. Because like some of the beauty of these in-person videography workshops is you've got your camera in your hand and you're kind of like applying the learning like as you go, and wanted that same kind of experience for editing. So I sort of came up with the structure of like it's 3 days, 3 event days, but spread over 3 weeks. So we split the editing process up into 3 sections, and like have some education on the kind of like the early phases of the editing process of like organization and file structure and getting the most out of your editing software and all these sorts of things. And then everyone goes away and implements what they learned. And then we come back and we review everyone's work, and then we start diving into maybe some of like the storytelling, and then like music hunting, and pacing and transitions, and really kind of like the real nitty gritty creative side of editing. And then everyone goes away and they implement what they've learned, and then they come back a week later and we review everyone's work, and then we start diving into the kind of polishing side and sound design and color grading and all these sorts of real like fine-tuning sort of finishing touches to the editing process. And then everyone goes away and they implement that, and then we all come back and we review everyone's finished film. So that's sort of the process that the format that I sort of came up with, and started floating that idea with a few people, and got some good feedback. So then started reaching out to some of the like amazing people that I've had the pleasure of meeting and working with over the years through the podcast, and said, do you want to come on board and help some people make an awesome wedding film? So we've got a really cool lineup. I think it's going to be a really fun event, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, when I saw the lineup, a few familiar faces in there. Obviously, Grace from Bottle Brush is on there.
Yeah, we got McLean from Hello Tomorrow, who's like genius story, and like kind of because Hello Tomorrow have a whole online course on just storytelling.
Yes,
so they've done all the thinking on wedding film storytelling, and so I wanted McLean as part of that to kind of, and I think, and he's actually going to kick off the whole event. The very first keynote speak is McLean talking on story, because I thought that would be a great way to get people inspired with, like, before we start to go into the weeds of file structures and editing shortcut. I'm like, no, this is, at the end of the day, it's all about story, so let's start there. So that's going to be a great way to kick us off. So we got Grace from Bottle Brush, who's just an absolute fucking wizard, and has just been like over in the States screening her short film and just killing it. And she's amazing. McLean from Hello Tomorrow. We got Will Sarmiento from Sarmiento Media. He hosted a workshop in Colombia that I was just at, and his keynote there was amazing. And he started going into his editing process in his keynote presentation. And the way that man manipulates music and creates these kind of like custom scores, and he was like taking the a cappella of one song and putting it with the instrumental of another and mixing and matching. The dude's a fucking genius. Yeah. So I was like, I just come here, you can be part of my workshop too. So we've got Will, and then we've got Shannon and Jack from Forever Curious Films. Those two, so they're from the UK, and they are wizards with sound, both recording and then dealing with it in post. And so when it comes to sound design, but not even just like your generic kind of like, let's add a whoosh and a wave noise and maybe a bird. Caw-caw. No, we're like, these guys like have an amazing skill of really making you, no, trust me, we all feel seen when it comes to just like bird noises and wind whooshes. It being like, this is sound design. These guys do an amazing job with building soundscapes that really make you feel like you're there. Like in that moment, like when you're watching these films, you feel like you're there because of what they do with sound. It's amazing. So they're going to dive real deep on not only they'll touch a bit on recording sound, but also on then how to manipulate and process that in post to get the most out of it, and with enhancing dialogue and all sorts of things. It's going to be amazing.
Amazing.
Kaylin from White and Reverie going deep on color grading, which will be great. So
yeah. I've sat next to Kaylin when he was on my laptop once in Denver, just watching him color correct, and I was like, oh my God. Like it's just watching, just going into the lumetri scales and everything, and I'm like, oh, okay. I tried to YouTube this, and I got like basically people just trying to sell me LUTs. Like this was great. It was like just clarity into what I needed to do. So that's going to be special.
Yeah, what a lineup that is, and I think pretty much what you said there as well, because like maybe for like some of this stuff, obviously maybe not for like the personal kind of like actual editing techniques or whatever, but like some of this stuff will be available online. But that's also the importance of like education, which we are big believers in, which save yourself the hassle of like spending hours upon hours on YouTube trying to find something that you may or may not find buried in, a multitude of YouTube videos that ultimately are maybe have a different agenda to sell you LUTs or whatever. You can go straight to the source and just and get the actual ways that people do things. So
and you're on a workshop with these people, so I take it there's going to be questions and answers, and if you've got a problem, these people are going to be available to answer any questions that go on that as well. So it's
and that's why I wanted more of the workshop format rather than the online course format for this particular event, because I wanted to emulate as much of that workshop experience as possible. So like we'll be having a private, like I haven't quite figured out the platform whether I'm going to use Discord or Facebook group or whatever, but we're going to have like a sort of group where everyone can do discussions and feedback throughout the whole conference. We're doing like Q&A sessions and sort of group reviews of people's work and all these sorts of things. So there'll be as much kind of space for people to network, meet each other, learn from each other as possible. And because this is an online event, and because of the audience that I've sort of built over the years, it's going to be a very international event. So there'll be people from America, UK, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, like India, all sorts at this event. So you'll be able to meet and learn from videographers from all over the world, which will be cool too.
So it's definitely something that I've said to Danny earlier, that it's probably something that I'll be doing, because the way I'm seeing it, if this is taking place in January, I've got a wedding on January the 3rd that is fairly epic. And what better way to actually go through the process of editing that than with some of the best in the industry. So that's the way that I'm seeing it. It's going to be a chance to just sit side by side and actually collaborate on a project that, really probably needs the attention to sell it for what the event was. And that's going to be something that I can take into the next year. So I know that tickets for this, the early bird tickets go on sale on the 6th, which if this podcast goes out on Thursday was yesterday. But we can possibly put a story out or something like that. But so the early bird tickets go out on sale on the 6th. When does how long does that last for?
Well, so I'll have the early bird discount live for 24 hours. I can also give a discount code to your lovely listeners that we can have live for another, let's say, 48 hours after your episode goes live.
So
if there's any,
awesome.
if there's any tickets left, hopefully, hopefully some of your listeners can jump on board with a discount link as well.
Mega, thank you.
Yeah, so
that sounds super interesting, and like I think everybody could probably do with brushing up on editing and learning from some of the best. So no, kudos to you for pulling that all together. Must be like quite time consuming though, I would imagine, just trying to like get all the pieces together.
Yeah, it is. And and we were talking about like imposter syndrome before. Man, through all these education stuff, the podcast, like doing especially like that first workshop I did, and even now this one, especially with like the kind of caliber of people I'm bringing on board. Man, I'm bricking it, but it's the sort of thing that it's like what I've found when it comes to imposter syndrome and things like that is that you basically you just have to hear it, acknowledge it, and go, thanks, but I don't need you right now, and just keep moving forward. And that's kind of what I went through with my last workshop, and seeing how that all kind of came to fruition, and realizing that I can actually do this. And getting the feedback from people who I've been working with on this editing workshop with. It's obviously it's the sort of thing that's like out of my comfort zone, but it's going to do a whole lot of learning, but it's gonna be an awesome event for sure.
If you look at it in face value for what it actually is going to provide for people, I mean, it's transform how you think about certain things when it comes to editing, and if that makes your life slightly easier in your full-time career, that's worth learning about.
It was a real light bulb for me when I realized with the education stuff. Okay, I don't need to like communicate that this is the right way or like the best way.
Yeah,
I just need to say this is what I do. And I've been
this
doing this for X
way.
amount of years, and this works for me. This is what I do, and because that, like, no one can then argue with that. Because if you say like this is the best way to do something, or this is the only way to do something, there's a million different opinions, and everyone can argue, but no one can argue with you saying this is what I do, and this is what works for me. So that for me was really freeing, especially on the education side of things. When that little light bulb for me clicked, and I realized that's all I had to do was quite freeing, really.
People want to learn. Like, it's not necessarily correcting people. It's just that this is my path. Yeah. If you want to follow this, there you go. That's it.
I think especially in like in any kind of like creative space, because there's so many different flavors, isn't there, and like ways to do things. So from like the home movie style kind of thing to the super high end polish, like Ray Roman kind of style thing. There's people that want all the different flavors. When we were talking kind of like offline, you were chatting about some of the kind of like AI things that you're kind of like integrating into like your workflows and stuff like that. So what could you elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of like what's been working for you? Because super interested to hear, and also what you think is maybe around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, like, talk about fucking hashtag buzzwords. AI is just like every man and his dog is talking about it these days. But because, especially for photography, I mean, you guys did a great reel on it the other day, where it's like photographers kind of like if they want to, don't have a post production workful anymore. It's actually just like image in. Like, done.
We found that one really funny. I think we found it funnier than some of our photographer friends did. They were like shots fired. So I'm like, oh well.
People have been dinging us ever since. It's
big
Yeah,
frosty.
I know. That's funny. Like, as soon as you mention it to photographers, they're like, oh no, but the creative process, and I want to be able to. I'm like, okay, that's all lovely and all, but you've got the option for. I'm sure there are a few weddings in your season that you manually select, and you manually edit, but let's face it, you've got the option for sort of the pressure
Big
release
red
valve
button.
of using AI for a lot of your post-production workflow, which we don't in any meaningful way yet on the video side. And there's a few things that are like on the peripherals, on the horizon, that I feel like the technology's there. It just needs the slight tweak and implementation into basically like in order to get it into our NLEs, and we can, before we dive into those, to talk on the photographer AI stuff. I have actually basically used that to sort of basically like beat them at their own game, as in, like, not quite, but so I've started using AI selection tools that are designed for photographers to start offering free photography, basically, as part of one of my services. So like as part of all my videography packages, it's just free thrown in. I offered like 250 photographs, and I in big billboards say, with big air quotes, photographs, like I communicate that they're stills from my video,
Right.
but this never used to be an option really, because there was just too much data to sift through in order to pull out stills. Like as a example, a photographer might shoot like 4,000 frames on a wedding, and they can manually like cull those. If we were to export out all the video footage like I would capture on a wedding day, I did the maths, and it's 550,000 frames, and that's just too much to sift through. But with AI, you can do it in literally 1 minute. So what I started doing is taking all my culled footage, applying my grade, and then I export that out of Final Cut as an image sequence. So I get however many images, and then I just dump that into Narrative Select. So Narrative, there's like three main platforms. There's like Narrative, there's Imagen have their selection thing, and then I think Photo Mechanic have one or two. And so I've started using Narrative, and it basically then goes through all the frames, analyzes them, looks for like eyes that are open, motion blurs, then goes through and picks out the best frames, and in literally 1 minute I've got 255 photographs selected for me, and I can go through and tweak, and maybe I want this frame, not that frame, etc., etc. But it's just like done. It doesn't take me basically any extra time. But in terms of what I can offer now to couples, like photographers have been offering a kind of like crappy version of video as an add-on for several years now, and like what I've sort of come up with as an offering isn't to replace photographers entirely, but it's like the videographer's version of when a photographer offers a like 2 minute slow motion clips to music edit. They don't record dialogue on the day, that they're not making a full-on wedding film, but they can offer that to couples who like kind of want a wedding film but don't have the budget to like go the full hog. So I can give a link to you guys to for your listeners to try out Narrative Select for free. They've got a free option. I think honestly, like all videographers, just like give this a go. It's like take even just like a wedding film, like a 5-10 minute wedding film, export it out as an image sequence, chuck it in Narrative Select, it'll pump out like 100 photos for you, and then just like deliver that as part of your gallery delivery. Don't even tell your couple, just like a surprise extra, and just see what happens. Like, and because
Really good idea.
Really good.
Yeah.
AI's awesome, isn't it?
yeah,
It's about time we got something.
So,
Right?
well, this is the thing. This is just what the photographers have, and then like I think what I will be, because we've got, this is obviously stage 1. Stage 2 will be we start shooting everything in 8K RAW and actually doing proper stills. I think we're still a while away in terms of the economics of that working, in terms of how much storage that it's actually going to translate to. But storage is only getting cheaper. it's
with
like,
Nikon getting red, you would hope that that wouldn't be like terribly far round the corner. I know obviously that the file sizes are, they're still not like insignificant, but like you would hope that some advancement in that regard is not too far around the corner, and Nikon hopefully will just license the patent out instead of keeping it. Either that or just fuck it, I'm just gonna go with Nikon. You know? So it's been awesome getting to chat with you today and just getting a little kind of like peek behind the curtain of you and the podcast and Make Better Wedding Films. It has been awesome. One thing though, just before I guess we finish up, one thing that we like to do to humanise our guests a little bit is to ask them what their biggest balls up is that they've had at a wedding. So if you can bring one to memory.
Yeah, I can. I'll give you two, because I'll give you the quick one we teased at the start of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Filming my very first wedding of my ex-girlfriend. I had the brilliant idea to get this awesome shot of her like getting in the car and heading off towards the church, and like got the car like leaving out the driveway and stuff. So got that shot and then packed up my bag and popped it in the car and headed to the church. I didn't quite fathom that she'd be literally driving to the church, getting out and walking in. So I missed her walking down the aisle and just like ran in mid-ceremony and just like frantically like throw a camera on a tripod here and like running in.
It should have been me.
You just see
literally like, it was
if there's anybody,
it was just about like speak now or forever hold your peace and like bang through the doors. Yeah, it was just about like that.
You just see the doors open and Ben running to the bottom of the aisle.
Videographer running in like sweating, holding
Even
cameras.
worse,
So
she's
so that was my very first wedding.
Ben.
Oh man.
Man,
Do you know
that's
that's
so that was my
literally
first
my
wedding.
worst nightmare. That's why I have recurring nightmares of that all the time. Me just trying to beat the bride down the aisle, and I can't run any faster, and I'm just in position, and they're going faster than me. I'm like, what's going on?
How's she doing this, Niels?
So
man,
if that does happen to you, you can survive and you can get through.
Yeah.
A real big balls up that happened was I basically lost half a wedding's worth of footage. So bad. I've done this. I've told this story on my I think reels or stories or something. But basically I lost half the wedding of my main camera. So the main camera, I'm like doing all the bride prep, ceremony, most of the cocktail hour and the bridal party shoot, and then I swapped my SD card before we just a couple off by themselves. So all of my main camera footage, for all of those moments, gone. Because basically that SD card, when I put it in the computer at the end of the night, went to select all the clips and copy them and paste them. I didn't quite hit select all, and so I copied one clip. So I had my very first clip of the day transferred from that SD card and nothing else, and I only realized several weddings afterwards, of which I had then formatted and recorded. So the footage was gone.
That is a stinger.
Man, it's just file management is. Actually, downloaded this software called, I think it's called Offshoot.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to talk about on as the sort of resolution of this story is so like through this happening, I found out about this software called Offshoot, and it's literally specifically designed for this purpose of offloading SD cards safely and giving you a receipt to tell you what you've transferred, and you can offload one SD card to multiple hard drives at the same time. And so that's the whole process I do now is I've got a clip. I've like made this like clipboard with like rubber bands over it. That's all got like sort of spots and labels for SD cards, and then all my SD cards are now like numbered and labeled so that like I can literally match up, have a 1-for-1 visual matchup of like, okay, this camera goes here, this camera goes here, and I've then got this like clipboard full of SD cards that I can look at and go, yes, I have every single camera, every single audio recorder, drone, etc. I can now take all of these to my computer and like systematically put them through offshoot, and I've got a receipt to know I do in fact have every single clip from every single SD card on all my hard drives. So that's that's.
See, I bought the software and I haven't used it once, and I know it's good.
It's a game changer, honestly. I will
Haven't heard of it.
I will never transfer another SD card without offshoot again.
I think I keep meaning to do it, and then I start the process the way I've always done it, and then I'm like, oh, I've already got half the footage already, but so I haven't done it. But I will try and do it. I've got 2 ends this week, so I will try and do it for those 2. But yeah, it's good.
Because the other
do you
thing,
use like Backblaze?
I do use Backblaze. Yep. So for backups,
Yeah.
I've got 2 physical copies and then a digital copy on, like a cloud copy on Backblaze.
I finally have good internet now. I got good internet installed this week, which means I can now upload like my 5 years of hard drives that I've got sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
I can actually finally have because I've got a proxy backup of every wedding.
And
Which isn't ideal, but it's
there,
better.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. So,
Backblaze is just so it's just like proper peace of mind of just like knowing, because I've also got quite fast internet, so it means that I'll offload all those cards in the evening, and then by the time I wake up in the morning, it's all backed up to the cloud. So I'm like,
whew, I need to get that done.
Game changer.
So like freeing.
Yeah.
Mega. Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It has been awesome getting to chat with you, and also thank you for representing the TWVP colours as well, coming in hot.
Boys, thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. It's been great getting to chat, meet you both.
Yes, kind of full circle, obviously, having listened to the podcast, having listened to Make Better Wedding Films for a number of years, and it's been I think we always said, oh, who would you like to get on at some point? So, I will get Ben on surely at some point. I mean, down the line, maybe we'll do that. And then.
Yeah, we did talk. We talked about you very, very early on, but then we were like, we need to do it for a bit, man. Like, let's earn some stripes first.
We need to get stickers on our microphones before we ask.
Oh mate, no, I think
£50 water bottles.
I'm slacking on the branding compared to you guys. This is very professional. I love it. I need to give myself a water bottle.
Nah, it's class, man. Thank you. Thanks so much for giving us your time, and for our listeners maybe that just obviously know the podcast Instagram, where can people find kind of like your kind of like personal wedding film brand?
Yeah, so the Make Better Wedding Films Instagram is a good spot to start. I do a bunch of like extra educational content on there, plus obviously any podcasts that go up we blast through Instagram. On there it was also my Instagram handle, ben.journee for my personal work, and any questions, feel free to flick me a DM or anything. I'm around.
Mega.
Yeah. And obviously you mentioned there was a wee code that you were going to offer our listeners.
We can, my people can talk to your people.
Cool.
We'll figure it out.
It in the notes.
But we'll just have a link. I reckon we'll just have links down below.
Just in case we need to say it just now, but we'll add it in the notes below.
Yeah,
so
we'll add it in the notes
definitely
below.
got that.
We'll have,
I would highly encourage anyone who's looking to just, if you've got a project that you want to work on in January, this is a really good opportunity. The people who are going to be on this are going to be stellar. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
I forgot to say,
we get
as an extra little thing to throw in the end there, I forgot to mention, it's looking like we are going to get Matt Johnson in as well as our DaVinci expert.
Mega.
So because I had people, a lot of the speakers using either Final Cut or Premiere. Kalen was doing all of his grading in DaVinci, so he'll be doing DaVinci stuff. Jack and Shannon are going to be doing demos of sound design in both Final Cut and DaVinci, but we didn't have like an actual like DaVinci kind of editing person. And when I put the word out of like what sort of platforms do people want, people want DaVinci covered, and I heard back loud and clear, yes, we want DaVinci. So I hit up Matt and was like, Matty, my boy, do you want to come on and talk DaVinci? So I think, we're going to get him on board. So anyone who either uses DaVinci or is interested, and I know a lot of people aren't using it now but are interested too, it'd be a great, basically, place to see all the pros and cons of all the top 3 editing platforms and see what's going to work best for you. You'll be able to see how people blast through Premiere, Final Cut, and DaVinci and see what's going to suit you best. So it should be good.
Literally all bases covered.
Yeah, all bases covered.
Yeah.
So yeah, links down below. Jump in.
Mega. Oh,
Awesome.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Like I said, hopefully we get a ticket.
Yeah. The class.
So I'll have FOMO, and then if I do miss out, hopefully I'll get the next one.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be another one.
I mean, I just can't help myself but join in. I literally just.
To be fair, he'll go to the open.
I've done.
So.
I've done them all. Like, release a course,
Yeah.
gimme.
He's need new course creators to throw money at. But no, this does sound epic, and I think it will. I think the one thing for us, like when it comes to like education and stuff, is being able to get like practical stuff that you can go and take away, and it's not just the inspirational, shoot your shit kind of thing. It's actually stuff that you can go away and go, right, shit, at that. My films are better. Yeah,
you're
now,
literally gonna.
after
You're literally
doing
gonna walk away from this workshop with a film that you've edited.
Yeah.
Throughout. So yeah, that's the idea.
Can't wait to make the credits on that. Like assistant editing director,
assistant to the assistant editor, Matt Johnson.
sound design by
Sound design by
literally
Pierre
just done it
Mercurius.
all.
Grading by White and River.
I just held the camera.
I love it.
Class. Well, Ben, again, thank you so much. And yeah, I think that's us for this week.
That's about
Beautiful.
us. Yeah.
Well, I've been Danny.
I've been Jase.
And I've been Ben.
It's been Ben.
Love it. Bye, boys.
See you next week.
Appreciate it.